I'm very ambivalent about Trump's maneuvers because, well, he is a bull in the China shop.
I'm angry about
it. Yeah.
I'm angry about them.
Yeah, right.
I wake up angry on it because I feel it's wrong at so many levels.
Well,
and I'm bothered by it.
Well,
and I think it's going to hurt.
Like who? What? Like, can we have this messaging? Yes.
Okay, so detail out for me and for the Canadians and everyone who's listening what you think exactly, what the hell is Trump up to? I mean, he's put a knot in Canadians' tail, and the upside of that is that for the first time, certainly in the Trudeau era, even the Liberals are pretending that they're patriots and that Canada has a self-evident reason for existing, which is something that Trudeau has formally denied for the whole bulk of his political career, that we were a post-national state with no real identity, that our
God, I hate listening to this guy talk. He's the ultimate, I want to be the smartest guy in the room, even though I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about.
Was our diversity that leg one, where we had some advantage, was also an untenable basis for movement into the future.
True.
That we were going to enter into a green economy that was going to magically make us rich. And one of the things you're pointing out is, good. There is a virtualized economy, but we don't own any of it. And, when I looked at Carney's book recently, Values, and he talks about this magical economy, which I suppose, at least in part, is a knowledge economy that's somehow going to emerge if we leave 80% of our fossil fuels in the ground. But you might say that it's a little short on detailed plan.
True. How could we ever transition to a future with these nebulous concepts like green energy? I've seen solar panels, by the way. They're not even green. And information and knowledge and zeros and ones. This is retarded. Let's go back to mining the coal. Get the coal out of the ground. We need to get the goddamn coal. Yes. That's the reality. That's the future. The future is in resource extraction. Yes.
So what's Trump exactly? What do you think Trump is up to?
I'm trying to spend most of my time with you today characterizing what's going on.
Yeah.
I've only said one normative thing to date, so far in this, which was my belief in capitalism in a liberal...
Ooh. Uh-oh. Is this a real philosophy guy? Because he just used the word normatively correctly. Oh, no. Uh-oh. Why, thank you, dude.
Democracy as the best way for human flourishing. And I'm going to give you what I plan to be only the second normative thing that I plan to say today, that I think that Trump's behavior is unpresidential, it's unprovoked, it's unkind, it's almost certainly illegal, though
what does normative mean? Technically, there are two definitions of normative. Normative either means a thing that's normalized, which is how most people use it. Philosophically, I believe normative claims are usually value statements or ethical claims. So if I say, murdering is when you kill somebody, you're just describing a thing. But if I say murder is bad, or I think murder is bad, that's a normative claim.
Hard to enforce.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
Which matters.
But in the characterization, I'm also going to say that I think he miscalculated, and it's actually been unwise and is counterproductive to America's interests and actually in Canada's interests if we seize it. So I think this is a fascinating moment, and to sort of, for Canada, to quote the famous Yogi Berra, when you reach a fork in the road, you got to take it.
Right.
And so Trump sees Mexico as just a commodified labor to lowest cost for blue collar, Canada's to commodified labor at white collar.
Destiny, not flaming, and I get you're not in the loop with Canadian politics, so I don't expect something reflecting policy, but why do you come off as so defensive of the Liberal Party and at least reluctant of the Conservatives? Have I ever said that? Ever? For Canadian politics, I don't know the positions of your Liberal or Conservative parties. If anything, I feel like the only two things I've really trashed in terms of Canadian politics were they the PPC or the PCs, the really far right people? I think I briefly looked into that and they were lunatics. And then and then I usually just make fun of all of your super woke shit that your Liberals have. So your land acknowledgements and all that cringe shit. But generally, I don't talk about Canadian politics much because I don't know the stance of anybody there. I don't know what the Liberals or the Conservatives even think in Canada. I have no idea.
Workers, and it's all going to be subsidized, and And so I actually
and
think...
the Pierre Poilievre or whatever, even that guy, I don't think I talked too much about him. I saw one conversation he had with Jordan Peterson that I thought was kind of dumb, but I haven't seen a bunch of stuff. Usually the stuff I cover when I talk about it, though, is I just say the conservatives have been hurt a lot by Donald Trump recently, which is that's just true, but I'm not necessarily... I mean, I guess I'm like laughing at it or poking fun at it, but it's more poking fun at Donald Trump. I mean, the same thing happened in Australia. I don't know what Australian conservatives believe, so... yeah.
I think the appeasement, there's a little bit of benefit in appeasement and diplomacy because you inform the U.S. that he may have to dial a few things back a little bit because it's counter to Americans' interests, not because he's compassionate to Canada economically or socially or security-wise. But I think he has said what he is. He believes that they are the empire, that you must pay a tax for the privilege of participating with the empire, interrelated with the empire. He wants to rename the Internal Revenue Service the External Revenue Service, and that people's taxes domestically can go down in the U.S. and that it's paid for through tariffs. And
you haven't said it explicitly, but it seems every time the conservatives describe a problem like productivity, you go against it. But when liberals have something like transitioning to green energy, regardless of how that's done, you criticize the objection to it. Wait, I can't tell if you've ever listened to my stream ever, or if you just have the most retarded reading of stuff I've said before. I think productivity is incredibly important. The thing I was making fun of when Pierre was talking to Jordan Peterson is they had like a 10 or 12 minute conversation that highlighted issues relating to the productivity of the Canadian economy and of the Canadian worker. And they even understood, or Pierre introduced the actual economic definition of productivity, but then they didn't speak about like things that would actually help productivity. So a more educated workforce, investments in education boost worker productivity. Doing higher value add things boost productivity. So when you talk about defunding education, now maybe they're not talking about that in Canada, but in the United States, the conservatives are obsessed with that. That would hurt your productivity. And when you talk about bringing back base level resource extraction and manufacturing, those are also less productive jobs. That hurts productivity. So the thing I was making fun of was the fact they were talking about productivity without talking about how to actually boost productivity. They just brought it up like a thing and then just moved on from it. Also, when liberals have something like transition to green energy, regardless of how that's done, you criticize the objection to it. Are Canadian conservatives as retarded as American conservatives? I didn't know Canadian conservatives were super opposed to green energy. I feel like everybody generally wants to do more green energy stuff, no? Maybe some people say that you're going too quickly on it, but...
And in economics, in prosperity, in a global system, the number one objective is to improve your terms of trade. And terms of trade is really simple, that it's the ratio of the price of what you sell to what you buy. And if you get a better price for what you sell, your terms of trade go up. If you pay more for something that you buy, your terms of trade go down. And that's the whole game, is terms of trade. And we thought that it was about comparative advantage, get out of the way. And America realized that it's about inserting the rent stuff where you get really high rents, which means that drives up your GDP per capita through higher terms of trade. And so their thinking is that I'm going to make you pay to come in here. That's going to enhance the prices we get. And we believe that's going to deflate your currency because it makes you, and a deflation of a currency is like a pay decrease,
because it buys less,
and you sell it for less too.
Right.
So that worsens your terms of trade.
Wait, what?
Is like a pay decrease,
because it buys less,
and you sell it for less too.
Right.
So that worsens your terms of trade, which benefits America's terms of trade. So they're trying to shift the structure of the global.
Oh, I guess it depends on how you view that. Selling things for less can hurt trade, but if you increase your net exports as a result of being able to sell it for less, I don't know if that necessarily hurts. I feel like it's a tad simplistic, but this guy sounds smart, so I'm not going to contradict him. Maybe it's not relevant what I'm thinking of here, but
global economic system where they become effectively aristocratic and everyone else is some lower economic status entity, and that is an economic logic being played out to Mexico and Canada. The tricky part is there's not a lot more blood to get out of the stone that is Mexico. I think there is a legitimate security thing that they're paying attention to.
With regards to the border?
Yeah, and there's probably a couple little strategic things they want in the economy, access to the oil system and owning it and so on. But there's a lot of blood to get from the Canadian prosperity because we're a relatively prosperous and rich country, eroding as we are.
Does JP get any credit for being so willing to listen this past couple minutes? Do you think it's a good conversational quality? No. You only get credit for it if you are able to consider what's being said. Just sitting there listening to it and then having the next conversation where you've absorbed nothing is no.
There's a lot of gems in there to get. So I think his objective, if you weaken it enough, you go in for the gems and you hold it in a subordinate position.
Okay, now
because that's the economic logic that is at play here. So
it's a dominance logic, fundamentally.
Yeah, it's an economic and security dominance logic.
Okay, now, but you pointed out that it may well have a paradoxical effect. So let's go into that. I mean, one of the things I've noticed, because I'm very ambivalent about Trump's maneuvers, because, well, he is a bull in the China shop.
I'm angry about it. I'm angry about them.
Yeah, right.
I wake up angry on it because I feel it's wrong at so many levels. So that's my second normative thing. I'll shed it. Now, you be a clinical psychologist, make me feel a little better. And I'm bothered by it. And I think it's going to hurt 1 in 4 people. What about the 1 in 4 people that have food insecurity? Like, for goodness sakes, people need food and a home. And now, really, this is...
I don't know who this guy is, and I don't know anything about him, but I feel like it's so depressing that this is like a non-starter for an American conservative. Like to say, like, let's ignore all the economic stuff and the political stuff and everything else, but like, don't you think it's maybe like a good thing to have people not dying of AIDS and not starving to death? Like, if we could spend a little bit of money helping that, like, that's a non-starter. So I guess props to Canadians for at least being able to at least say this still, because in the U.S., no one gives a f. Jesus, it's so disgusting.
Right. And you're going to erode the whole system, hurt Canada comparatively more, still hurt America, and vulnerable people are going to pay the largest.
Or at the very least, maybe this guy is kind of a nationalist or quasi-Canadian nationalist or something, but I hope you guys realize this. And maybe the rest of the world is realizing it. That's why the parties are switching. For all of you dipshits in Canada and in Western Europe that saw yourselves as like, oh yeah, Brexit and Trump and populism, we all go together. Just know that these movements are me first and you. So if you're championing that and America is doing that, you're going to be the ones to suffer, right? America has a bigger economy than any of your individual countries and some of your larger markets even. Like, it's not like you're going to be championing like, oh yeah, I love that Trump is super America first, ultra nationalistic. Wait a second. Holy we're getting on trade now. Oh my God, our shit is getting sanctioned to hell. Holy shit, we can't even access the American markets anymore. What the fuck? It's not good for you, but...
comparatively more, still hurt America, and vulnerable people are going to pay the largest price. Because what? Because that's how the aristocracy works. And
like, here's what I want to see, and we've got 3 more minutes. If this was somebody on the opposite side saying things like Americans shouldn't be paying for everyone else's shit and we, they can't take care of everybody's problems, blah, blah, blah. I feel like Trump's like, yeah, exactly. Trump is so right. True. Amen. Yes, true, brother. Yes, true. But since this guy's presenting the other side, I feel like Peterson's just kind of like, nodding along. He's like, yeah, I guess. He's like, I'm ambivalent towards it. And he's like, oh, yeah, I guess it's bad. Yeah, whatever. And he's not going to say anything. And then the next person's going to come along to talk about how great Trump is and how stupid Canadians are. And Peterson's going to be like, yeah, I agree. 100% actually. Yeah, 100%. Like, is he going to challenge this guy here to hear any pushback? But we'll see.
Let them eat cake. And as a proud Canadian and somebody that believes in, my dad was an electrician. I mean, these structures, I wouldn't have gone to school. I wouldn't have had this. Yeah, it violates all sense of fairness for me. So that part of it is not cool by me. But yeah, we'll go into the misplayed hand by Trump.
I would like to know partly, for example, why you are a proud Canadian, why you've stayed here because you didn't have to, and why you think this country is worth fighting for. And then I also want to know what you think about the fact that Trump tromping around has actually seemed to wake Canadians up a bit to help them understand once again that they do in fact have a country, that it might be worth preserving, that we should pay attention not only to the resource economy, which we've done everything to scuttle, but that we should maybe wake up with regard to, these more sophisticated issues that you've been bringing to light. Okay, so let's start with your feelings about Canada. I mean,
well, it's a beautiful country. How can you not love the country? I mean, just because I love it doesn't mean I always like it.
Who is this guy? Jim, is this guy? Please don't tell me something horrible about this guy. Can we just learn to say this in the United States? Can every Democrat memorize, and maybe progressives? Nah, they can never do it. Can everybody just remember this? I feel like don't parents say this about their children sometimes, or at least children about their parents? I don't always like him, but of course I always love him, right? Like, yes, I love my country. It's beautiful. There's a lot of great things about it, a lot of things to be proud of. It's not perfect. We work to make it better. The only reason why you want it to be better is because you love it. If you hated it, then what the fuck is the point?
Yeah.
And those
but you have chosen to stay here.
Yeah,
to keep your operations.
Yeah, and I've doubled down. Of course. Yeah, of course. Yeah, this is my team. This is my country. This is my home. Your job, it's given me so much. And as you said, your obligation is to carry the load you think you can handle. Yeah. So you carry the load that you think is yours, that you can bring to bear. And there's beautiful people who volunteer at food banks, who do many wonderful things in this country, healthcare workers who care for vulnerable, and on it goes. And so I think...
Yeah, well, and you've poured your efforts into developing the tech economy in the Waterloo area. And my brother-in-law, who's like a tech maven, he thinks that the engineer graduates from this institute in particular are like world top rate. And so, I mean, you put your money where your mouth is. And
it's very rewarding. It's very meaningful. It's a shame to see it sub-optimized, but do you let the bullies and the elite failure of the last 30 years prevail when there are so many good people who are trying to advocate for a better country and a better future?
Like who, what, like, can we have this messaging? Yes. This is like he's like me, the institution cuck defense or whatever that everybody hates so much. Like, listen, there's a lot of great stuff here. Let's just like fix the problems. We don't have to throw out fucking everything. There's a lot of great stuff here. Yes. Yes.
There are so many good people who are trying to advocate for a better country and a better future. And if I can provide some resources and air cover for them, as opposed to abandoning them, well, morally, what do you think's the right thing to do?
Oh, what was his answer to that? He's not going to answer that directly. Like, well, the problem is it's impossible. Wait, where's this full conversation? What did that say? Hold on.
Well, morally, what do you think's the right thing to do?
Behind a paywall? Yeah, look at how mad the audience is. He glosses over all the tariffs Canada has on the U.S. I manufacture a product that's sold worldwide. When it's sold in Canada, it has to be made with parts made in Canada. So I make product A to be sold to the world, and product B, which costs more to make and is only sold in Canada. It's always interesting how other countries make laws to benefit themselves, but when the U.S. bully does it, they get angry. I love Dr. Peterson dearly, but his fellow Canadian, Gad Saad, this guy is a crazy lunatic fuck. These guys are all certifiably insane people. Like, if you look at their behavior on X, they're actual lunatics. Like, this Gad Saad dude is crazy, or Gad Saad, or whatever. They're crazy people. As he correctly pointed out, every country in the world imposes tariffs to protect their own industries. Why should the U.S. be the only one to put its interests last? Like, I guess that's kind of the story of the world. Like, if you think about the United States, right? What a sucker country. Worst economy, lowest GDP per capita, lowest technological innovation, no new companies, no world. Like, what are you talking about? Like, who would write the history of the world up to 2025 as, and for the last 100 years, the United States let itself be pilfered and raped by all of these other countries, taking so much advantage of it? Like, hello? Presidential does not make a good president, but it does make a good textbook example of liberals politician, which is wrecking Canada and Europe right now. I just want to hear Peterson's answer to that. We have other videos we need to watch.
And the elite failure of the last 30 years prevail when there are so many good people who are trying to advocate for a better country and a better future. And if I can provide some resources and air cover for them, as opposed to abandoning them, well, morally, what do you think's the right thing to do?
Right, and hence this discussion. Okay, so now let's look.
Oh, and he doesn't even answer. Fucking pussy.
Forward. Let's look now and forward a little bit. And so, as we speak, virtually, the Liberal Party, which is...
So we were talking about Trump, his miscalculations.
Yeah.
So I've never... I didn't answer that yet.
Sure,
I didn't answer that yet because we split two apart.
Okay.
Here, I think Trump has made a strategic mistake because America's got an unbelievable deal from Canada.
Oh, and see, now he's going to talk about the soft power that America enjoys, the amazing access that we have to so many markets. All of the arguments he's about to make, maybe, is going to map onto the deal that the UK had with the European Union, by the way. Maybe, we'll see. But
And as they got this exfiltration of our best graduates tend to leave in droves from places like Waterloo
to the United States,
Silicon
to San Francisco,
Valley, adding to the trillions of market cap. Our best ideas invariably are taken by U.S. companies where they own them and commercialize them. Our best resources, like Alberta oil, is overwhelmingly shipped raw to America, where it's value added and sold back here. American companies come to Canada, basically get monopolies for what they sell here in various technologies and products and pharmaceuticals.
So it's already a pretty good deal for the U.S.
It's an amazing deal. And
like, even saying that and being surprised should be humiliating. Like, do you not know anything about it? But I mean, it's not like it's their job or anything, right?
they don't have to pay taxes here, and the wealth effects aren't shared here. So America has got a great deal from Canada, an unbelievable deal. And Canada says, thank you for that. Would you like fries with this? And that's because of this inattention that we've talked about in the second leg. And the frog has been cooking 1 degree at a time for Canada over 30 years. And a shrewd person would have said, let's keep this good game going. Let's maybe turn the degree up 2 degrees at a time, but don't turn it up too much that you freak out the frog and it jumps out of the pot. And I think Trump thought he had such dominance. It was kind of like the Russians with the Ukrainians, that they would just submit. And what Trump has done he's been so extreme, so out of line, that he's actually woken up Canadians to say, we're better than this. We're capable of being more sovereign. We're capable of being more prosperous. I'm not going to take it. I'm not going to submit. I'm going to invest. I'm going to start to think about this.
Wake up.
And actually,
the UK is still part of the European Common Market. I thought they withdrew from that like 4 years ago. Is that not true? I don't think that's true. Like, you have to negotiate your own trade deals now when you're the UK. You don't get to be part of the the EU market anymore. Yeah, I don't know where that came from.
Canadians will start to get their fair deal in this changed economy with an updated sense of thinking.
And that could happen.
Well, that's the fork in the road. So do they submit and become a subordinate Puerto Rico without a passport? Or do they respond and build the capacity to vision and work towards an appropriate standing and future for the country in this changed world? And I think that potential of the latter one is there and before us. I'm going to bring all I can to bear in encouraging and supporting that potential. But it's not certain that that's going to happen.
Okay,
it's very clear what Trump's going to do. He's not going to back off.
No, he's not a back off sort of guy.
It's his orthodoxy. He's more locked in that orthodoxy than we were in our 30 years of hands off, in spite of all the facts that came at it. I think it's going to he's just going to keep tweaking it. But he's already done the damage because the law doesn't apply anymore. He says you can't have access to the U.S. market, so move your factories here. Nobody's going to do a press release that says I'm moving my factory in the middle of the night to the U.S. The damage is done for Canada in this current system. He barely needs to put tariffs on it anymore. Just the threat of it is de facto in the business realities. So the big question is, what is Canada going to do in that response to that fork in the road? And if we take the higher potential route, we will have a much better future, granted a bumpy interim phase. And that goes to the point of leadership that you were.
Okay. Well, let's turn to that. So we're at the dawn of a transformation in the Canadian political scene, at least in principle. We have the spectacle of new leadership arising after Trudeau on the Liberal side. It's the day before the leadership race for the Liberals finalizes. And
I don't know. I feel like he obviously, or at least in other conversations, he would disagree heavily with so much of this, but he just says nothing. So boring. I don't care. What's this?
Folkser. EI.
DEI.
So, here's where we're at. Jackie Robinson, before he broke the color barrier, was in the US military. There was a story about him on the US government website. It got deleted. It then was reposted, and DEI was in the URL. Jeff Passan made a huge fuss about it. Shout out to Jeff. They have since fixed it and restored it. And this is what folks who are on the right side, the correct side of Jackie Robinson have been saying. Calling Jackie Robinson a DEI hire is insulting. And everyone who agrees with me politically was saying that. And that's why we lose arguments. Because we have just seeded the ground that, oh yeah, DEI is bad. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. What that means is people who didn't deserve a job got one. And don't you dare call Jackie Robinson DEI, because he wasn't. He deserved it. But what people don't see is that's how the bad actors win, is by reframing definitions. Because a DEI hire is not someone who did not deserve the job who got it. That's just what they have claimed it is. And now folks are like, you can't call Jackie Robinson DEI hire. It's insulting. Guys, in Major League Baseball, Jackie Robinson was the definition of a DEI hire. And that's why we need it.
Damn. Wait, who's this guy? This is why I always ask for like DEI policies, and nobody has ever in the history of all of everything been able to give a DEI policy. Like, what is this DEI shit you're talking about? Because if it was truly the case that there were a bunch of these qualified people that were getting passed over for jobs because of like a DEI hire, I feel like we'd be talking about it, right? Where are these things happening?
Was he awesome? Yes. Was he deserving? Yes. Was he blocked because of his race? Yes. And so it is not an insult. Now, this whole thing was the Department of Defense. This wasn't a DEI military, but set it aside. It is incumbent that we not cede ground and that we instead say, let's have the actual argument. And the actual argument is the reason DEI policies came to exist was not to elevate undeserving people. It was to make sure deserving people of all colors, creeds, genders, ethnicities had a shot. And the conversation that we should be forcing is the following. If we are going to act like DEI...
They literally ask for your ethnicity on job applications. Are you allowed to do that?
DEI is this awful buzzword that pre-DEI things were a meritocracy, true and clear, and that's how it should be. Pick the industry, pick the data set, and go out there and argue, folks on the other side,
answer?
that when,
Gotcha.
and I'll give you the actual data, that when 50 years ago, 500 of 500 Fortune 500 CEOs were white guys, that was a meritocracy. And 15 years ago, when 450 of Fortune 500 CEOs were white guys, that was a meritocracy. And 4 years ago, when there were 4 black Fortune 500 CEOs, that was actually when we were doing it all by merit. And now that thanks to the scourge of DEI, that 4 has doubled in 4 years up to 8. That, you know what? All the white guys who got the jobs deserved them. That was merit. And the black people or women or whomever got them, they were the undeserving. If that's the argument, make them make it. When you look at our politicians, fun fact, how many governors in US history have been black? The answer to that question is 5. Kind of 6. But 1 during Reconstruction would have been...
How many governors in U.S. history have been black? The answer is 5? Damn. Is that true?
The answer to that question, how many governors in U.S. history have been black? The answer to that question is 5.
Oof. Okay.
Kind of 6, but 1 during Reconstruction would have been 1 more during Reconstruction, but that fella got, died suddenly in his office due to a suspicious poisoning. Can't quite figure out what happened there. So 4 black governors since Reconstruction. Was that all merit? Was that, listen, it just hasn't happened? Was never a good black gubernatorial candidate. What about this one? Pre-Barack Obama in Illinois in 2...
He's right, too. And I love what he says about... I love what he says when he says, force them to make the argument. Because he's not saying you'll automatically win, because you might not automatically win, but at the very least, you can have them be more honest about their positions, right? In a perfect meritocratic world, there would be no black governors. Like, make them make that argument, because a lot of them won't. And then when people hear it, it'll feel differently, okay? Make them make the argument.
2005. There had been around 2,000 United States senators in our history, pre-2005. How many were black? Quick question. The answer to that...
Well, now I'm going to guess really low. If there were 2,000, I would have guessed like 80-ish, 80 to 100.
That is 4.
Jesus. Wait, senators? Yikes. Wait, how many black senators in U.S. history? This says of the 14 African-American senators, 9 were popularly elected, including 1 that was 2 words. To date, 11 have served. Okay. Regardless, whatever the real number is, it's very, 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 very low. Jesus Christ. He said before Obama? Oh, okay. In my mind, I was thinking, okay, 200 senators, black people are 10% of the population. Wait, I fucked the math up by an order of magnitude. I would have guessed 10 to 15. What did I... Oh, did I say... No, wait, he said 2,000, right? No, he said 2,000, right? So for 2,000, for 10% of the population, about... My guess was 200, but since there's a lot of racism, maybe like a little less than half, so like 80 to 100. That was my mental math on that. But it's much lower. Damn, okay.
2 during Reconstruction, 160 years ago, or 150 years ago, and 2 post-Reconstruction since Obama. You add it all up, all of history from the start of the U.S. Senate to right now, this moment, there have been 14 black U.S. senators, 11 elected, 3 appointed. So again, if your argument is, when the numbers were literally 98 to 2, white guy to everyone else, that's when we had a merit-based system. And now that the numbers are slightly going towards the actual demographics of the country, that's all bullshit,
slightly,
elevating undeserving people, then make that argument. Yes. And folks who are saying amen to what I'm saying, make them make that argument.
Yes.
What you can't do is let them
seed the ground immediately of like, okay, you're right. We are doing DEI because truly no black people are probably actually qualified to be in politics. No women are actually able to fly airplanes, right?
Is act offended when people are like, oh, you're calling Jackie Robinson a DEI hire. You're goddamn right he was. A great example of it, of why they are important policies. Because you had a guy as great at what he did, playing baseball, as Jackie Robinson, who was blocked entirely because of his race. And then the DEI policies of the day gave him a shot. It's like, holy shit, this guy's awesome. That's the idea behind it. And you're not going to win arguments if you only have them on other people's terms. Stand firm and say, here are the numbers. Here is how disproportionate in every industry, in every position of power, in every political sphere, white males are. Is that, because, in your opinion, because they are simply smarter, more equipped, savvier, all of it? If that's what you believe, if that's what they believe, make them argue that. If they won't say that's what they believe, then ask them, so how do we fix that? What are the policies one would have to implement to make sure we're actually getting the best and the brightest?
Ooh, the P word, not the P word. Policies, no. I just wanted about trans people.
Instead, we've let them turn DEI into a slur, a buzzword, meaning it's synonymous for unqualified doofus that gets a job, and tar any black person or minority who has a big-time job as that.
And the truly insulting thing here, and nobody cares because, again, it's literally just one egregious, horrendous thing after another, was when Trump was, he said this, right? Right after that plane crash over DCA, he said that it was a DEI pilot. Didn't he say that? That was just an unbelievably crass, disgusting, horrible thing. Like, what the f*** is that? Were they unqualified? Do you know anything about the nature of this pilot? What the f*** are you talking about?
And so, obviously, the asshole at the Department of Defense that took down Jackie Robinson's page is, everyone can agree that guy's the worst. That's an easy conversation. A far more serious conversation is, yeah, Jackie Robinson in Major League Baseball was a DEI hire. And that's why such policies need to exist, and that's why we'll defend them. Or it's just the craziest coincidence in the world. All of the deserving people for all of the big-time jobs, the ones who actually got it on merit, all of them just look like me. Wonder how that one worked out.